Regrets is by far the mildest film in this video. The movie suggests that self-esteem is not truly personal, but rather the result of comparing ourselves to what society deems valuable. On the Hollywood Walk of Fame, workers unveil the name of a new star, Elizabeth Sparkle. At first, paparazzi swarm and people line up to take photos, but as time passes, public interest fades. In the present day, Elizabeth hosts a fitness program. On her 50th birthday, she accidentally overhears the network executive asking for someone younger and sexier to replace her because she's no longer useful. Soon after, he fires her himself, implying that her youth is gone, and with it, her worth. After being fired and surviving a car accident, Elizabeth receives a USB labeled The Substance. The product promises that, through an injection, it will create a younger, more beautiful, more perfect version of you. Under strict rules, precise 7-day rotations, and a stabilizing fluid that must be extracted from the matrix, Elizabeth eventually injects the activator. Her back splits open, and from it emerges a young, flawless woman named Sue. They now share one existence. While one sleeps, the other is awake, switching every 7 days. Sue is hired for the show, and her image completely replaces Elizabeth's. But Sue breaks the rules. To prolong her youth, she extracts more stabilizing fluid from Elizabeth's body. The result is grotesque. One of Elizabeth's fingers ages drastically. The company warns her that what is taken from one side is removed from the other, and that the damage is irreversible. As Sue steals more time, Elizabeth's body deteriorates. Gray hair, sagging skin, yellowed nails, and growing lumps. After 3 months without switching back, Elizabeth awakens as a decrepit, skeletal, hunched old woman. In an attempt to end everything, Elizabeth nearly kills Sue, but stops when she remembers that her younger self is the only part worthy of love. When she tries to revive her using the switch device, something goes wrong. For the first time, they both wake up at the same time. Sue brutally beats Elizabeth to death. As she prepares for the show, Sue begins to fall apart. Desperate, she injects the activator again, begging, "Give me a better version of myself." But instead of another perfect woman, a grotesque creature emerges, with Elizabeth's face attached to its back. The monster puts on the blue dress, wears a mask with Elizabeth's face, and steps onto the stage before millions of viewers. When the mask falls, the crowd screams, "It's a monster!" and demands it be killed. The monster begs them. She is still the same person. They all attack her until a man crushes her head, spraying the audience with blood. In the final moment, Elizabeth reaches a late acceptance. Her worth was never confined to her youth alone. The tragedy is that this realization comes far too late. Descent into Darkness. We are faced with a French horror film presented as a mockumentary. It follows a reporter who is funded by his local television network to travel across Europe in a heart-shaped route, starting in Paris and ending in Rome, to question whether something like the European dream truly exists, much like the American dream. The first thing that stands out is Sorgoy himself, a journalist fully equipped with recording gear. He is charismatic, friendly, and naive, simply eager to experience the customs of the so-called First World. Although the journey was supposed to cover multiple cities, a series of disastrous misfortunes keeps him from ever leaving Paris. He goes out partying, is offered countless illegal substances, and begins a downward spiral into madness. He is beaten and robbed, loses one of his cameras, has his credit card stolen, and eventually the production company stops responding to him. He finds himself stranded in a foreign country with no money, no friends, and no contact with the people who were supposed to support him. The turning point comes in a nightclub bathroom, when he is offered 3 different pills and swallows them all at once. The dealer tells him he should not have done that. This is Sorgoy's breaking point, the psychotic episode that turns the rest of the film into pure chaos. Unable to pay for his hotel, he starts with small thefts and muggings, recording everything and realizing he enjoys it. He befriends a homeless man, lives under a bridge, drinks heavily, commits petty crimes, and we witness the degradation and humiliation of life on the streets, When the homeless man dies of an overdose, Sorgoy is left alone and begins flirting with violence. Stealing is no longer enough. He wants to punch someone, knock them to the ground, harass women, stab a stranger under a bridge for fun while filming it, rob him, and discover that it is the most thrilling thing he has ever done. At one point, he even films a little girl in a park in a way that hints at something deeply disturbing. Absolute decay arrives when he breaks into the home of a European family. There, he tortures each of them. The father is stabbed and ends up crushed under a piece of furniture. The child tries to escape, but Sorgoy captures him, locks him in a shed, douses it with gasoline, and burns him alive. Later, sitting at the table with the mother tied up, he eats meat that we understand to be human while forcing her to watch footage of her son's death, with the father's corpse still in the room. We can still hear a baby crying as Sorgoy smiles and stands up. Time has taken its toll on him. He has lost significant weight, shaves his beard into strange shapes, cuts his hair into a heart, lives like a hermit, and continues filming and editing in the midst of his psychosis, convinced he is still making his documentary about the European dream. In the end, he shaves all the hair from his body and walks naked into the sea. That is where the film ends, having finally found, in his own twisted way, the long walk. Imagine a dystopian future where the ultimate national entertainment is watching 50 boys, one from each state, walk without stopping. It is a test of pure endurance, where the only rule is not to drop below 3.1 miles per hour. And it isn't even a race, since the winner isn't the one who arrives first, but simply the last one standing. If you stop or slow your pace, you receive a warning. At the fourth warning, they simply execute you right there on the road. What's most interesting is the relationship forged between the characters, especially between Ray, our protagonist, and McVries, the African-American boy. It's fascinating and at the same time painful to see how they become friends in a matter of hours, knowing that only one can stay on his feet. Personally, the movie made me feel a heavy mental anguish. The psychological toll of seeing your companions fall one after another is devastating. You feel that monotony of the road becoming eternal, and how hope dissolves with every mile. If we talk about moments that leave you in shock, we have to mention Harkness. There's a scene that turned my stomach, when he breaks his ankle in the middle of a climb, and the camera lingers on that totally twisted and gangrenous leg while he tries to keep going. It's brutal. Another death that leaves you chilled is the boy who starts bleeding from his nose. It is a raw representation of cerebral edema, where his brain basically liquefies from the effort and lack of sleep, until he dies in the cruelest way imaginable. And we cannot forget Barkovich, a character who starts out almost as a sadistic psychopath, and ends up totally destroyed by guilt after indirectly causing the death of another competitor. Additionally, there are curious changes compared to the book. In the novel, there are 100 boys and the minimum speed is 4 miles per hour, while here there are 50 and they walk a bit slower, although they cover an absurd distance of more than 330 miles. The ending is, without a doubt, the most controversial part and what left me thinking the most. Unlike the book, where Ray's fate is much more ambiguous and ghostly, the movie here makes a different decision regarding McVries that feels somewhat anticlimactic, but loaded with meaning about revenge and sacrifice. It leaves you with that existential void of wondering if anyone truly wins in a competition where you have had to watch your best friends die to survive. In addition, it invites you to reflect on where our society is headed, and if we aren't already, in some way, on our own march toward the absurd. The house that Jack built. This man named Jack is driving down a road when he comes across a stranded woman. She starts talking about serial killers, even telling Jack he looks like one and giving him ideas on how to kill her. He ignores her until he suddenly slams on the brakes, grabs the car jack, and smashes her head in, disfiguring her face with repeated blows. During all of this, he keeps talking about art. He owns a large freezer, and that's where he takes all the bodies. Afterward, he hides the woman's car in a forest near a border so the police won't even bother looking there. This is the first incident. During the second incident, Jack watches a woman who lives alone. Her husband died 6 months ago. He shows up pretending to be a police officer, then an insurance agent offering to increase her pension. She makes the grave mistake of letting him inside. Jack attacks her from behind, strangles her, and repeatedly stabs her. He always takes photos of the corpses before bringing them to the freezer. He has a severe obsession with cleanliness. He imagines bloodstains and goes back multiple times to clean, taking so long that police sirens approach. He hides the body in the woods and deceives a police officer by saying the woman, named Claire, has disappeared and would never let a stranger inside. While the officer searches the house, Jack brags about how well he did his job. He ties the corpse to his van and drags it, leaving a trail of blood that miraculously gets washed away by rain. When he reaches the freezer, the woman's face has been destroyed from being dragged. By the way, Jack is narrating all of this to someone. Later, he strangles another woman he was involved with, takes her to the freezer, and because he doesn't like the photos, he returns the frozen body to the crime scene. On the way, he runs over another woman walking alone, adding 2 more bodies to photograph. In the third incident, things start to get darker. Jack goes on a hunting trip with his partner and her 2 sons. He shifts from teaching them how to shoot to literally hunting them. He shoots one of the boys in the leg and then in the chest. The other gets a headshot. Jack then calmly sets up a picnic with the boy's mother beside the bodies. Afterward, he gives her a countdown to run because he is going to hunt her too, and eventually kills her. He displays his partner and her 2 sons like hunting trophies. As if that weren't enough, the psychopath carves a smile onto one of the boys' faces. They all end up in the freezer. Fourth incident. Jack falls in love with a girl. He tells her he has killed 60 people, then corrects himself to 61, confessing that she is the next victim. She doesn't believe him, and when she tries to ask for help, a police officer assumes they are just drunk. Back at the apartment, Jack disconnects the phone, ties her to a chair, and begins cutting off her breasts. We only hear her screams of agony. Here, Jack explains that he finds it easier to work with women because he believes they are less brave and weaker, so they cooperate more. The final incident reveals that Jack has several kidnapped people in the freezer, all tied up and still alive. His plan is to execute them all at once, using as little ammunition as possible. He tries to buy bullets, but can't get any, so he attempts to ask a friend for help, but he kills him because he was planning to turn him into the police. Jack returns to the freezer while more patrol cars arrive outside. He is preparing his sniper rifle when an old man appears, the same person he has been telling all his incidents to. Throughout this time, Jack has wanted to build a house but could never find the right materials. The old man suggests building a house out of the frozen corpses. Jack does it. When the police open the freezer, Jack escapes through a hole. We see what appears to be Jack and the old man drowned in a lake, but then Jack is walking through a tunnel. The old man tells him the tunnel leads to hell. There, Jack begins to see every single thing he has done. Finally, we see Jack falling straight into hell. Thanatomorphosis is an extremely low-budget film with barely 5 characters, though only the protagonist truly matters. It has very little dialogue, follows an experimental structure, and is difficult to watch. The main character is a depressed young woman who lives alone in her apartment. She is a nurse and maintains a toxic relationship with her boyfriend, who treats her coldly and only seeks her out for sex. After one of these encounters, he leaves and she is alone again. From that moment on, she begins to notice changes in her body: stains, fingernails falling off, skin darkening. There is no explanation. She simply begins to rot while still alive. Her routine is empty and suffocating. She works on a clay sculpture while her physical condition worsens. After hitting her head, her deterioration accelerates. She tries to treat herself, but nothing works. One of her friends shows up, notices the bruises on her body, and ends up sleeping with her before leaving, once again abandoning her alone. In the second act, the decay becomes total. Maggots crawl out of her wounds, her nails detach, and parts of her body begin to fall off. She darkens the apartment, turning it into a closed, almost funerary space. The girl starts storing locks of hair, pieces of fingers, and chunks of flesh in jars, photographing her deterioration and using those fragments to complete her sculpture, as if trying to transfer her existence into that figure. Her boyfriend returns and, upon seeing her transformed into something unrecognizable, rejects her. In response, she brutally kills him with a hammer. Later, she calls her friend. When he arrives and refuses to sleep with her, she stabs him as well. In the final stretch, her body no longer responds. Her skin turns black. Maggots cover the flesh, and the decomposition reaches its peak. She drags herself across the floor as her body literally falls apart until only a skeleton remains. She lets out one final scream until her jaw detaches.